Resuming at page 98. Well-known stereotypes about gay men and lesbians include a belief that gays and lesbians are affluent, self-absorbed, and incapable of forming long-term intimate relationships. Other stereotypes imagine gay men and lesbians as disease vectors or as child molesters who recruit young children into homosexuality. No evidence supports these stereotypes. In the book, Poverty in the Lesbian, Gay, and Bisexual Community, March 2009 article, Williams Institute, written by Randy Albelda. He writes, a popular stereotype paints lesbians and gay men as an affluent elite. The misleading myth of affluence steers policymakers, community organizations, service providers, and the media away from fully understanding poverty among LGBT people. Chauncey writes, medical pronouncements that were hostile to gays and lesbians provided a powerful source of legitimization to anti-homosexual sentiment and were themselves a manifestation of discrimination against gays and lesbians. Meyer writes, one of the stereotypes that is part of the stigma surrounding gay men and lesbians is that gay men and lesbians are incapable of, uninterested in, and not successful at having intimate relationships. Gay men and lesbians have been described as social isolates, as unconnected to society, and people who do not participate in society the way everybody else does, as a pariah, so to speak. David Rubin writes, in Everything You Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask, what about all the homosexuals who lived together happily for years? What about them? They are mighty rare birds among the homosexual flock. Moreover, this happy part remains to be seen. The bitterest argument between husband and wife is a passionate love sonnet by comparison with a dialogue between a butch and his queen. Live together, yes, happily, hardly. Chauncey states, even though not all sodomy laws solely penalize homosexual conduct, over the course of the 20th century, sodomy laws came to symbolize the criminalization of homosexual sex in particular. This was most striking in Bowers v. Hardwick, which reads as though the law at issue simply bears on homosexual sex, when in fact the Georgia law at issue criminalized both homosexual and heterosexual sodomy. Chauncey writes, the federal government was slow to respond to the AIDS crisis, and this was in part because of the association of AIDS with a despised group. Peploe writes, there is no empirical support for the negative stereotypes that gay men and lesbians have trouble forming stable relationships, or that those relationships are inferior to heterosexual relationships. It is stated in the 81st Congress article on employment of homosexuals and other sex perverts in Congress, second section, 1950. Most of the authorities agree, and our investigation has shown, that the presence of a sex pervert in a government agency tends to have a corrosive influence on his fellow employees. These perverts will frequently attempt to entice normal individuals to engage in perverted practices. This is particularly true in the case of young and impressionable people who might come under the influence of a pervert. Government officials have the responsibility of keeping this type of corrosive influence out of the agencies under their control. It is particularly important that the thousands of young women and men who are brought into federal jobs not be subjected to that type of influence while in the service of the government. One homosexual can pollute a government office. Chauncey. Like most outsider groups, there have been stereotypes associated with gay people, indeed a range of groups, including medical professionals, religious groups, and have worked in a coordinated way to develop stereotypical images of gay people. Chauncey writes, in some ways, the most dangerous stereotypes for homosexuals really developed between the 1930s and 50s. when there was a series of press and police campaigns that identified homosexuals as child molesters. These press campaigns against assaults on children focus on sex perverts or sex deviants, though these campaigns, and through these campaigns, the homosexual emerged as a sex deviant. George Chauncey writes, "Once a man assumes the role of homosexual, he often throws off all moral restraints. Some male sex deviants do not stop with infecting their often innocent partners. They descended through perversions to other forms of depravity, such as drug addiction, burglary, sadism, and even murder." I should point out that George Chauncey wrote the book in which this contains excerpts from statements that were found in Coronet magazine. These are not George Chauncey's statements. Chauncey, this excerpt from Coronet magazine, depicts homosexuals as subjects of moral decay. In addition, there is a sense of homosexuality as a disease in which the carrier infects other people, and the term innocent pretty clearly indicates that the authors are talking about children. Chauncey, writing in the post-war sex crime panic article, contains a statement made by a Special Assistant Attorney General of California in 1949. The sex pervert, in his more innocuous form, is too frequently regarded as merely a queer individual who never hurts anyone but himself. All too often we lose sight of the fact that the homosexual is an inveterate seducer of the young of both sexes and is ever seeking for younger victims. Chauncey again writes and points out in an article that the articles were concerned and mostly addressed to adults who understandably were concerned about the safety of their children, who were being taught to believe that homosexuals pose a threat to their children. Chauncey, one of the most enduring legacies of the emergence of these stereotypes is the creation and then the reinforcement of a series of demonic images of homosexuals that stay with us today. This fear of homosexuals as child molesters or as recruiters continues to play a role in debates over gay rights, and with particular attention to gay teachers, parents, and married people who might have close contact with children. Lamb writes, social science studies have disproven the hypothesis that gays and lesbians are more likely to abuse children. Religious beliefs that gay and lesbian relationships are sinful or inferior to heterosexual relationships harm gays and lesbians. Religions, it's published by Nathanson, November 12, 2009. Religions teach that homosexual relations are a sin, and that contributes to